because progress isn't a blanket, is it? It doesn't cover across everything. Everywhere does things at their own speed, and sometimes things go backwards instead of going forwards as a result, so it's interesting to be sort of pulled up short when you all of a sudden, as you say, go back in time.
You go somewhere and think, oh, yeah, this place still exists.
Yeah. Do you tend to get treated differently if it's the two of you out and about?
Yeah, I think it makes more sense. Either Stacey's a cougar or out with a teenage son, or people think, lesbians. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand this now.
Yeah. This is making more sense. A bit more context.
The one thing we haven't talked about, and we should because I know it's important to you, is tennis. Because you mentioned that you've been playing since you were sort of 3 years old.
My trophy's in the cabinet there.
Oh, right,
I am
cool.
Reigning ladies singles champion at my tennis club. I think about 7 years running.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, good.
We have a small club. There's not many players.
Have you found tennis to be an accepting sport, an accepting community?
Yeah. I think it's that thing where if you can play, they don't care what... they don't care. They don't... Literally, at my tennis club, they do not care. If you can hold a racket and hit a ball, they're not bothered. And it's nice, we have... I don't think it's... Brummies at the club that I play at would be the minority. I think everyone is from literally all over the world, if not all over the UK, people who've travelled in and sort of found the club that way and live in that sort of area of the city.
That's cool.
So we've got people from Spain, Ireland, Holland, all over the shop, quite, international almost. And then people who have moved to Birmingham from other parts of the UK. I think there's very few actual Brummies.
Right.
All different races. Certainly not the only gays at the tennis club. There's quite a few gays, men and women, at the tennis club. We're only a small club, so I would say there's about 60 to 80 active members, and they're just very accepting. And it's a kind of common language that everybody loves tennis, and you just want to be on court and playing. And if somebody can play and you're having a really good game, that's all that matters.
In my mind, I hadn't thought of it as being this real cosmopolitan space that had brought loads of people from different places. I guess I think of tennis as quite white, so I probably wasn't thinking of... I don't really know much about tennis, so that's tennis in this country being quite white, I suppose, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of people at the club, I would say, are white, but certainly not. It's certainly not all
kind of
white.
Britishness, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
it is. It is very, very British, like very British. I mean, that trophy is from the 1950s, I think.
Is it?
I think we've got proper silver cups for every competition, and they're all engraved going back. The club's 100 years old.
That's an amazing history.
The tradition at the club, they're traditional clay courts. The old clubhouse is from the 30s, and then there's a bit added on from the 60s. We still have... all the competitions are running from the sort of 50s and 60s. So there's the President's Plate, there's the Rose Bowl, there's the doubles, the mixed doubles, the singles, little tournaments through the year, and the President will bring strawberries for the first, tournament of the season. We, play league tennis together, and it's very British.
Yeah, it's steeped in history.
Equally, really diverse as a club, I would say.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. It sounds like someone should do the history of the club, because it must be,
I think somebody did. I think there might be a book somewhere. Yeah.
All right, final kind of questions, which is just to ask.
Going back to tennis.
Yeah.
Martina Navratilova growing up was just...
amazing. I'm going to assume that, yeah.
Yeah, just she was who I wanted to be.
Really?
And I think she was the only person, really, because, gay women visually on TV or anything you'd see in the media, there just weren't any, or very, very, very few. And it was just like, wow, she was
like a trailblazer.
Yeah.
Were there any other people you remember, either that you were kind of attracted to, or that you recognise sort of, what's going on there?
And Katie Lang. I mean, everybody's going to say Katie Lang, aren't they? That kind of, wow. Yeah, in her younger days, not so much now. But
handsome, suave.
That is where I want to be. I'm not making that grade, but yeah, that's where we want to be at, isn't it? As a 15-year-old lesbian, that's what we're aiming for. Probably not quite getting there.
Yeah, KD. Yeah, I mean, she's so important too. Anybody else that you can think of?
I mean, Madonna, clearly not gay, but I think certainly in the 90s sort of was one of the people that were, I would say, brave enough, but I think she's just almost brash enough, isn't she, to sort of dabble in that sort of lesbian culture. Certainly gay men, there was always a sort of, entourage of young gay men as dancers, but then there would, also she would sort of titillate a little bit with actual skinheads, for a long time, certainly through the late 90s and 2000s. I had a shaved head, and so, to actually see women skinheads as they were, that they were one of the few places that you would see that.
Yeah.
Tank Girl would be another
Tank Girl.
Hero of mine.
That's a good one. That's
a
good one.
Tank Girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Stylistically, quite into the look?
Yeah. I quite often play tennis in my Tank Girl t-shirts.
Nice. I guess that was, it's not mainstream, is it? But it was a kind of a crossover where people would be aware of Tank Girl.
Yeah.
As,
Yeah.
very visually obvious. Very kind of resonant culturally. People, there was a moment where Tank Girl was like...
And thinking everywhere. About Tank Girls made me think about Laurie Petty in Point Break.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
An ideal.
Yeah.
See, now you've got... Look, there's loads coming out now.
It's all flooding back to me. Yeah.
The 90s was quite a good... It was quite a good time because there was a lot of androgyny around.
Yeah.
So I think you could hit that seam.
Yeah.
And there was more ability for women to kind of go that way with their style.
It was the kind of ladette culture, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it kind of went away again, and I guess, I don't
thankfully,
really know
in a lot of cases, yeah.
I don't really know where we're at now, but as you say, that like gender identity has just become such a more like diverse spectrum anyway. That also because of our age, we're probably not up on what the young people are doing these days. But half the stuff my students say, I'm like, what? Yeah, I just wanted to kind of finish up by asking, what positives and negatives overall do you think your kind of butchness has brought to you? What's the best thing about being butch?
I don't get to hide. It's a bit like Ron Seal, isn't it?
It does what it says on the tin.
Yeah. A lot of people they see me and they don't really have a great deal of questions. They kind of, what you're looking at, don't you?
So it allows you to just kind of just present yourself, and then people just take that, and you don't have to explain.
Yeah. Or actually, some of my sort of close friends at work, I think they almost feel really privileged when they are, or know that I am comfortable enough with them and they are comfortable enough with me that they will ask questions a bit more in depth, or you will explain things. Or
what kind of stuff would they ask you?
I'm trying to think, because I know this happened the other day. I think everybody's really, really worried about being considered homophobic or being prejudiced in some way, and to actually explain, I nearly got stabbed going to the barbers. Do you know what I mean? That, for me, that's homophobia. And I think what we have in the police force, or my experience of you as a person, I don't see you as that. But I think explaining that these days, I think, stuff's more subtle, and, them really wanting to sort of check out, do you think I'm a horrible homophobic person?
Yeah.
And that, what's your experience of this? Why do you dress the way you do? What is that about? How do you identify? What is that? And I think straight people don't really get allowed into this world, and they're so scared of being able to ask questions without, not wanting to cause offence.
Whereas I don't think I can't speak for everybody, but, I'm not offended if someone's genuinely interested.
No.
Like, that's not homophobia.
No,
that's just not having had the opportunity to see or know that. It's just different from...
Yeah.
Totally different from having a preconceived idea about somebody that makes them act negatively towards you.
Somebody screaming across